Good morning, everyone. My name is Joseph Cronin, and I am the program coordinator located here in Boston Public Schools with Sandy Hook Promise. I would like to thank you all, especially our school leaders who have made it a priority to be with us this morning. Taking this position in August has been a humbling experience. My main goal is to help our prevention programs not only be successful, but to be sustainable. I want to be a resource to you during our implementation process and eliminate any heavy lifting that may happen to individual schools. In the last 6 months, I've been located down the street at Boston Latin Academy. I've witnessed firsthand an amazing melting pot of beliefs and backgrounds. And these people truly value the protection of children, and they have taken meaningful action, not only in the schools, but in their community, in order to make them a better place. I would now like to bring up Dr. Chang to the podium. Dr. Chang has been a champion for Sandy Hook Promise and a visionary for Boston Public Schools' future.
Thank you, Joe. So welcome, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. It's an important day as we launch this critical new partnership. I want to thank all the staff for being here today and all the organizing it took to make this happen. I want to thank some distinguished guests. If I could start with Nicole Hockley for being here today, founder and managing director for the Sandy Hook Promise, Massachusetts Attorney General Mara Healy. Thank you for being here, Attorney General. Dalma Hearn, who is the chief of the Mayor's Office of Public Safety. We also have Chief of Education Ron Dorsey, who is here. So thank you all for working very closely to making sure that this day happens. I'm really encouraged that the Sandy Hook Promise is here in Boston Public Schools. Nicole and other co-founders are courageously working with schools across the country to foster a culture of inclusion and teach us all how to spot warning signs. We know that youth violence, bullying, harmful behaviors affect schools each and every single day in school districts across America. And as educators, we have the opportunity to influence our students and promote safe and welcoming climates that reduce these incidents. I'm going to go a little bit off script. I want to share with you an experience I had recently at the beginning of this school year. I had an opportunity to speak to over 1,000 AmeriCorps members in Massachusetts. And I asked them a very simple question. I asked them, are we moving in the right direction? Are we making sure our young people are feeling safe and welcome? And I was really, in my mind, in my heart, I was hopeful that a good number of these 1,000 highly altruistic young people, I mean, these is AmeriCorps. These are young people who are giving a year of their life to serving others. I was really hopeful that I would see a good number of people raise their hands. And to my disbelief, there were maybe 2 or 3 hands that were raised. I believe deeply that as such a diverse country we have, diverse racially, culturally, linguistically, socioeconomically, we actually mostly get along. When we compare ourselves to other countries around the world, we should be very proud that people in this country generally do work together. But we cannot ignore the fact that many of our young people still do not feel safe, welcomed, not only in our schools, but in our communities, and unfortunately even in our country. And so that's why in Boston Public Schools, our #1 priority is to foster safe, welcoming, and sustaining environments for all students, families, and staff, regardless of their race, their culture, and immigration status, their native language, their socioeconomic status. And sustaining means we need to make sure we understand every young person's identity is a strength. The opportunity achievement gap will continue to persist if we do not focus on three things: academic learning, social emotional learning, which is about the knowledge, the attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage one's emotions, and culturally and linguistically sustaining practices. And that's why this work and this partnership with the Sandy Hook Promise is so important. It is a holistic, it is a comprehensive approach to making sure our students are feeling valued, they're feeling empowered, and they're feeling safe. During today's presentation, in addition to getting a program overview, you will learn more about Start With Hello Week, which begins February 5th. Start With Hello builds off of social emotional learning that is already occurring in our schools. Something as simple as saying hello or encouraging students to talk or play to other students may appear isolated. Who may appear isolated leads to less bullying, less violence, and less depression. The statistics you will hear today are troubling, but they also point out to steps and actions that we as school leaders can take to prevent violence from occurring. We have an opportunity. This is life-saving work. I'm hopeful that in a few years, when the young people in Boston Public Schools become AmeriCorps members in Massachusetts, and I know many of them will, and I have that same opportunity to ask that same question, I will see so many more hands raised. And I'm also hopeful that when I'm walking the streets of Boston and I say hello, we don't ignore someone, we don't ignore each other, but we say hello back as well. So with that, I turn it over to Chief Dorsey, who is City of Boston's Chief of Education. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good. That's not very enthusiastic. How's everybody doing? All right. First of all, I want to thank our school leaders and school staff for being here today, because you're going to be an integral part of the success of the Sandy Hook Promise. So thank you for stepping into your leadership roles even further. I'm thrilled to be here today with the Sandy Hook Promise leaders to introduce this partnership and their Know the Signs programs. Before I begin, on Mayor Walsh's behalf, I want to thank and acknowledge Nicole. Paula's here. I think I met Mark and Tim earlier when we began this conversation, for the resilience that you have demonstrated in your work. You've taken a tragedy that is still unfathomable for many of us and translated it into power and into progress in Newtown, as well as cities around the country. And so Boston is honored to be a partner with you. So thank you. As a part of my role, I seek out these kinds of opportunities to better enhance students' experiences in Boston Public Schools. Now, when I walked into the room today, somebody said to me, "Thank you for bringing the Sandy Hook Promise to Boston." And I said, I didn't know such thing. When Nicole and her team reached out to me, I simply had the good sense to connect them with the people who do the work. And so that's all I can claim, but there are many people in the room who should take credit. I do want to thank Kim Pelletro, who is in the room, and Amalio Nieves. But we know that this work is important to do because programs that are able to prevent violence also improve school culture. And when school culture is improved, we know that the capacity for learning increases exponentially. The ease with which Sandy Hook Promises programs can be implemented was key to us in joining forces with the program. All 4 of their programs are free and intended to be self-led. Each teacher, each classroom or school is encouraged to put their own stamp on the program and make sure that it is powerful for the students who are in front of them. BPS is excited to be a part of a list of large, diverse, and committed school systems who are a part of the Sandy Hook Promise, including Miami-Dade, Chicago, and Los Angeles. They've all signed on to the Know the Signs program, and we are happy to be the next among them. By ensuring that as many students and faculty have the tools that they need, we have another system in place to keep them in safe and productive environments. The skills our youth and adults will learn will also be of benefit to them outside of school. And I'm hopeful that the ripple effect of prevention will reach far beyond the classroom and to Boston community. So again, I thank you. I have the honor of also thanking Makiba McCreary, who is here, our Director of External Affairs, who was also integral in making sure that this partnership happened. And the person who will now come to the podium, our Chief of Public Safety, Dan Mulhern, a great friend and a great mentor for me. So Dan, thank you for the work that you've done to make this possible.
Good morning, everyone. At the risk of not repeating many of the things that have already been said, I'm going to go completely off script. I do want to say a few more thank yous to Superintendent Chang's staff, in particular Andrea Amador, who has been a force of nature in bringing this program here. And also Jody LG, that does wonderful work, as you all know, on behalf of the Boston Public Schools. I won't speak to the power of Nicole and Tim and her leadership team. I think Ron did that very eloquently, as did Dr. Chang. So many years ago, when Dr. McCreary lived a different life, she spent some time working for an organization connected to Michael Jordan. And one of the things that came out of this this work that she did for some time was an expression after she gave me a T-shirt, which I liked quite a bit. But it said, "With a little help, everyone can fly," right? And so what we talk a lot about, many of us in the room, many of our leadership in the city and the state, we often talk about the big things that we can do to keep our kids safe, our schools safe, and our community safe. And our mayor and our attorney general and others often come in rooms like this and announce wonderful, wonderful partnerships similar to the one that we're entering into today. But there is no organization that I can think of that understands, rarely is it the big announcements, the big systems, the big programs that really make a difference for our young people. It's really the small things that we do every day for each other. I'm looking out at all the leadership of all of our schools. There's probably no one in the city of Boston that understands that more than educators. And that may be as simple as a tap on the shoulder, a hello, a reassuring glance to a young person or an adult in the circles that we travel in that make the difference. You know, my role in my past life, I was the chief of the gang unit here in Boston. I spent a lot of time around families that have lost loved ones, and a lot of time around our friends and neighbors that were impacted by violence. There is no public official that I can think of, maybe short of the wonderful partner that I will announce, than Mayor Walsh, that really understands the significance of the little things that we do on a day-to-day basis that make all of the difference. Most of you are familiar with his own personal story, but he understands how a tap on the shoulder, a phone call, a reassuring glance can make the difference between desperation, lack of hope, isolation, and potentially an act of violence. So on his behalf, as Ron laid out, I am just really humbled to be here for him. I am extremely proud of the City of Boston and our leadership team here at BPS and all of those in the audience for welcoming Sandy Hook Promise. And I am enormously optimistic that we all truly together, working together and empowering our young people to work with us can make a significant difference in the health and safety of our communities. There are far too many people to thank. Ron already touched on BPS staff, but I do want to say to many of the behavioral health, the mental health, the educators, our friends from Samaritans that are in the room. It's a really enormous privilege to have you here with us. We have representatives from our street worker program that are also in the room that truly understand the importance of a tap on the shoulder to make a difference. So I said all those wonderful things about you and Mayor Walsh, and just bear with me for a moment. I have had the great privilege of getting to know the Attorney General over the last 3 or 4 years in my role for Mayor Walsh. She is someone that rarely, if ever, and I can't think of an occasion where she said, no, I'm not available, or no, I don't want to be helpful. She, both personally and professionally, understands the significance of a conversation. If you've ever seen her around young people, you will truly see the breadth of her impact, not only on our city, but frankly, in her role on the entire state of Massachusetts. So it's a great honor to introduce Madam Attorney General.
Well, thanks, Dan. Thanks for that kind introduction and for all that you do on behalf of so many across the city. And I think that your work involving efforts to address and reduce violence is something I've learned a lot from over the last few years. And I think that the continuing partnership we have as an Attorney General's office and with the City of Boston has been really wonderful and deep, and something we're going to continue. So thank you for all that you and your team do day in and day out. To Ron, thank you for what you brought to the city and your perspective. It's been terrific. And you have wonderful, wonderful educators here in the room today. I want to echo the sentiments and say thank you to each and every one of you for what you do. Both of my parents were, well, my mom was a school nurse and my dad was a teacher. And I have some understanding of what it means to be on the front lines every day, and increasingly in our society to be presented with issues that are more complicated than ever before. So much is asked of you, so much is demanded of you. And I just greatly admire the work that all of you do as professionals day in and day out to provide young people in our city with opportunities to learn and grow and be their very best selves. Superintendent Chang, thank you for all that you do. I appreciate your comments about diversity and inclusivity and the inspiration provided to students here who we want to see grow into AmeriCorps members and beyond. It's a great and wonderful thing. So thank you for inviting me back to this building. It's not my first trip here, but it's always great to be here with the wonderful folks at BPS. Thank you, Joe, for all the work that you do. We wish you the very best in your efforts. Now, I want to give a special thanks to the folks at Sandy Hook Promise. I was just speaking with Nicole. I had an opportunity to sit with Mark and Tim. They came into my office not long ago, and we talked about the program, and I was so excited that this program was taking hold here in the city of Boston, and we talked about the ways, too, that we could perhaps amplify it in other locations, recognizing the importance. But to Nicole especially, representing all of the incredible families who've come together to launch this initiative. Your strength is not only a guiding light, it is the force that I think we need now in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our state, and our country more than ever. So thank you for your courage, thank you for your resilience, and welcome to Massachusetts. You know, to me, this is about keeping young people safe, and I don't think there could be anything more important than giving every young person the opportunity to be all that they can be. We're proud here in Boston and in Massachusetts to have some of the very best schools, very best teachers, and best students in the country. But none of that really matters if our young people don't feel safe. Now, so many and too many in this room even have attended funerals, memorials. We've grieved after shootings in our neighborhoods, in our streets, after incidents from Las Vegas to Orlando, Charleston, and Tucson, and of course for our first graders and their teachers in Sandy Hook. And I think in the wake of this, it's certainly incumbent upon all of us to ask the question, what can we do to make sure this never happens again? And to get real about this, to recognize that gun violence is a public health issue. Fundamentally, yes, it has public safety ramifications, but fundamentally, so much of this is a public health issue. And the Sandy Hook Promise to me is a promise that each of us can commit to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to save lives, to end violence, and to give our children the bright futures they deserve. Now, here in Massachusetts, we have strong gun laws. My office has been involved in defending challenges to those laws. But I think the point is that strong gun laws do, in fact, save lives. But we also know, just read the reports of the weekend, we still continue to see violence and gun violence in our city and across our state. And that's why my office is going to continue to work hard with our partners in cracking down on illegal gun trafficking and sales, working with dealers to enforce existing gun laws like our assault weapons ban, and urging Congress to lift the ban on gun violence research. All of this is really important. But law enforcement is just one piece of the puzzle, because I fundamentally believe this is a public health crisis and it needs to be addressed as one. And if you're talking about public health, we're talking about prevention. And that's one of the things that I think is so empowering about the Sandy Hook Promise program. You know, as I say, I've had an opportunity over the last few years to meet with some of the Sandy Hook families in different contexts, and I just can't say enough about how much I admire their resilience in the face of unthinkable tragedy and the effort that is being put into efforts to prevent this from happening in other schools and other communities. They've shown us that we can teach young people and adults around them how to recognize the warning signs and to reach out, how to assess those signs and respond. And that's what's going to be happening here in the Boston Public Schools. And I'm really grateful to everyone at Sandy Hook and Boston Public Schools in the city of Boston for bringing this forward. You know, for the last couple of years, my office has run a program over at UMass Boston. We bring young people, young leaders from schools together. We lure them in with the promise of a basketball tournament, and then we have conversations about efforts that they can take to reduce violence in their communities, and we call it our Gut Game Summit. Every year I ask the students to write letters to me about their experiences and what they'd like to see in their communities. And I remember a letter that I actually took to the White House from a young man here from Boston named Tyrone, who said to me, "Let's come together for more than just funerals." You know, let's come together for more than just funerals. And that's what this is about. And, you know, as I think about it, for the sake of Tyrone, for the sake of young Dylan, who we're going to hear about in just a moment, and all of his classmates from Sandy Hook, all young people today who are at risk, it's incumbent upon us as adults to set the conditions and do the right thing so that we reduce violence. I love that the color is green, reflecting vitality. I love that it's a tree that both has a strong root, but also, you know, this vision of branches, which to me I know represents the young people and the families, but more than that, I think it reflects that we're all in this as community. And day in and day out, I agree there are ways that we can make a difference in ways that may seem small, but are no less valuable in terms of making the impact. And especially now where there's a whole lot of nonsense happening out there in the world and people feel that they maybe have less power or opportunity for action or change, never forget that each of us, and within each of us, lies the power and the ability to transform a life, to make a difference. And here, through this programming and through this learning, think about what we're going to be able to head off. So you got the full commitment from the Attorney General's office to the city, and certainly to Sandy Hook Promise. And at this time, I want to welcome to the podium somebody for whom I have such a deep and profound respect. And it really is, Nicole, a tremendous honor for you to be with us today. It's such a privilege to know that we're going to hear directly from you about what this program means. And I won't blow it. There's a wonderful photograph that Nicole is going to show you, and I really think I asked her what continues to inspire her and drive her in the face of what must be incredibly challenging times, and she just showed me a picture that really says it all. So Nicole, welcome and thank you for bringing Sandy Hook Promise to all of us here in Massachusetts.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm just going to ask my colleague Joe if we turn off the internet as well so we don't see the emails coming up. That'd be great. Work never stops, as you all know. Thank you so much for such a warm welcome, and I see some familiar faces here. I've been here a number of times now, and there's some fantastic champions in this room. I can't thank all of them, but it's amazing how far we've come in a relatively short space of time. And as I was saying earlier to a colleague, all we want to do is help. All we want to do is give service and make a difference. And I come to you today wearing two hats, really, as I do every day at Sandy Hook Promise. One, as one of the founders and managing directors of Sandy Hook Promise, which has been beyond a full-time role for 5 years now, and trying to figure out what can we do to help prevent these acts from happening, and how can we use our voices to have the greatest impact and help others. But also I'm here as a mom and as a mother who had 2 children at Sandy Hook Elementary School, and one came home and one did not. As the Attorney General mentioned, this is my son Dylan. He's about 5 years old in this picture, 4 or 5 years old, but he was 6 and in his first grade class when he was killed at Sandy Hook. He died in the arms of his special education assistant, who also died while trying to protect him. And he is the start of my why. Why Sandy Hook Promise? Why I go around the country talking to schools and school districts? Why we developed these programs? My second why is my surviving son, because I want him to grow up in a country that is safe and where he doesn't have the risk of not coming home from school one day, or having friends who might hurt themselves or hurt someone else, and teaching him the value of kindness and inclusivity and connection and resilience in the face of trauma and tragedy. And my third why is really all of you and the kids that you teach every day in the communities that you serve. Because quite frankly, I don't want to keep talking to parents who lose children. None of us do. I don't want to see these acts continue, especially when we know that they are preventable and there are actions we can take. So while I'm here as Dylan's mom and Jake's mom, my surviving child, right now I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about Sandy Hook Promise in particular and the programs. Talk a little bit about the how we do it and how it can be of use to you, and how this is really about making it the easiest implementation possible for you, because you are busy people and we are not trying to create more work for you. Like I said, all we want to do is be of service. So hopefully you'll get a good overview today of what we do and what we can do for you and how that can help your schools and your communities, and also to know that we're not here to give you more work. We're here to help. Very quickly, the purpose in meeting with you is to provide an overview of who we are, what we do, and our No to Science prevention programs, a little bit on the impact and outcomes that we've already had in schools across the country, and also to ensure that you have the tools that you need. I'm here with 3 of my colleagues today: Sarah Holroyd, who's sitting in the audience there, Paula Finbo and Joe Cronin, who are at the back. Can't miss Joe, he's a big guy. They'll be available, as well as myself, to answer any questions that you have, because I'm going to go through this presentation at a fairly rapid pace, but it will be available for anyone who wants an email afterwards. The first thing is just a quick reminder: who is Sandy Hook Promise? We are a nonprofit organization, a national nonprofit that was created and led by several of the families, not all of the families. I'm always very cautious to say that, because everyone responds to grief in a very different way. But there are several families who came together and said, this is what we want to do in order to help prevent these acts of violence from taking place. And what we do is we prevent gun violence and other forms of violence and victimization by teaching people how to recognize the signs of someone who's at risk, and then helping get that person help so that the situation doesn't escalate. It's pure prevention. We also do a lot of work in terms of identifying who's at risk and ensuring that while they are in that risky situation, that they are not able to access a weapon and perhaps carry out their act. And that's more on our policy side, but really here today I'm here to talk about the programs. The how we do it, we educate within these 4 Know the Signs programs at no cost, kids and adults and parents, how to recognize these signs. And we deliver it through any method that you want. And honestly, whenever we talk to schools, we don't have a one-size-fits-all approach. We know that every school is unique, every district is unique, and we want to help meet you where you are. So we deliver in-person trainings if that's what works for you. We will deliver digital curriculum so that you can download and self-meet if that's what works for you. We have interactive training videos if you want a student in a one-on-one environment to do something during a free period or as a homework assignment. That's available to you as well. So it's all about the lightest lift possible. We have English and Spanish speaking materials and subtitles in our videos for those that have hearing challenges. And we also have multilingual presenters. So if you decide to go down the face-to-face route and you're in a classroom or an environment that requires a different language, we can take care of that for you as well. And we sustain all of these by embedding them within school clubs. Because one of the things that we learned throughout the country is that there are so many programs out there, and they're all well-intentioned and well-meaning and good, but sometimes they're kind of one and done. So we heard a lot from teachers who said, you know, it's fantastic when the program comes in, the kids are living it for that day, that week, or that month, and then it kind of fades away. So we thought, what can we do about that? And we learned organically that student clubs are the best place to embed this content and then really empower the kids to own it and deliver it throughout the school for the rest of the school year. Just a little bit of a background. I'm going to go quickly here in terms of the problem, because I think for you to help understand why we identified these particular programs as being the solution to what we were identifying, it helps to understand the problem. And each year, there are hundreds and thousands of acts of violence and victimization with youth. Now, we are always very cautious to say that schools are one of the safest places in the communities. However, we know that there are, they can have acts of violence in there and victimization for sure. These stats are a couple of years old, so I don't have the most current stuff, but almost 750,000 students were victims of violence, 876,000 students afraid of attack at school, and different environments have different numbers behind them. But that's a lot of people who perhaps are not having the school experience that we want them to have and that we know that we can help them have. And these acts continue to undermine safety and well-being and that feeling of I can go to school and I can focus on what I need to do there, which is learning and connecting. It can disrupt that learning, these acts of violence and victimization. It can certainly create a stressful school environment for the kids as well as for the staff. And it can create a loss of teaching days. If you're having to deal with problems, or if there are threats that mean that school has to be shut down, or anything like that, it can cause problems. And we want to make sure that the kids are in school learning, because that's what it's all about. And at its extreme, it can mean a loss of life, whether that's through self-harm or harm towards others. So we conducted a year-long research before we first launched our programs in terms of how do we minimize these pathway behaviors and how do we best deliver it and then sustain the programs. And one of our key learnings is that in the majority of these acts of self-harm or violence towards others, there is leakage. There are signs and signals given off that someone is potentially considering hurting themselves or someone else. And that was a big lesson for me in the Sandy Hook shooting, finding out, that it was preventable because the signs and signals had been given off by the shooter, but they were either misunderstood, ignored, discredited, not acted on, and to think that there were multiple opportunities for intervention. That's incredibly frustrating. And when you look at other acts of violence or suicide, there are these signs and signals. 80% of school shooters do tell someone of their violent plans before they commit the act. 80%. Just think if one person had said something, that would have been an act that was prevented. The same with suicide. 70% of people who complete suicide tell someone or give off other warning signs or behaviors. These are opportunities for intervention. These are opportunities to make a difference. And in the same end, we have learned how to recognize the signs of someone who may be having a stroke or a heart attack or in danger of drowning and hadn't been trained on what to look for and therefore what to do. But when you are trained, it becomes much more obvious, and then you can really help someone before they take the next step in that path. Unfortunately, when we looked at, well, if this is such an obvious problem, and we learned this a lot from law enforcement and threat assessors and the FBI, we thought, how come it's not being taught out there? And there are no national programs that are tackling this issue in this way. There's a lot of regional programs, and that's magnificent, but we want to focus on changing the behavior of our country, of our youth across the country, and how to make a difference. The programs are fragmented and regional. There's often a lack of measurement to really say what is the quantifiable impact of these programs, and there's not often the funding to deliver it. And that can either cause a problem for the school or the district or for an organization that's trying to deliver it. And where there have been signs and signals reported, they were often misunderstood by the youth or by the parents or the adults involved. And there was no process to report it. So we were dealing with some schools when we were first doing research. They're like, we hear these things, but what do I do with that information? Who do I go to if I'm hearing a sort of threat like this? Who's going to assess it? I'm not an expert in diagnosing this issue, but who do I go to that's going to get that person the help that they need? So there was not a lot going on in a consistent and coordinated fashion. And it was also magnificent when we met with some schools and districts who said, yes, we have this program. And I said, that's fantastic. We're so glad you have this program. How do you communicate it out to your schools? Well, we put a number on our school website. Okay, that's a start, and that's a great start, but that really doesn't go far enough in terms of training. How do you use that phone? How are you promoting it throughout the school year? How are kids knowing to go there? Do they go to the school website in order to find this information? Is there a different way of reaching kids? And we also found in terms of delivery and sustainability, there wasn't often the funding or the human resources to deliver it. It was taking time out of the classroom, which was causing some problems. There were a lot of similar programs within different districts, all doing the same thing, but as teachers moved between schools or as kids moved between schools, you weren't getting the consistency of voice and message. And really to create that habit, to create that change, it needs to be consistent. So we decided we're going to use our collective voice, and we are going to be that organization that goes out and teaches youth and adults how to recognize the signs. We're going to do everything at no cost. We have magnificent grassroots donors who donate to us on a regular basis so that we can do this for your community at no cost. Because really money should never be a barrier to saving a life, and we're committed to doing that. We're committed to doing it for as long as we exist. And we also know that we need to be the organization that helps sustain these programs through the clubs or through other means identified within your school. So quickly looking at the 4 Know the Signs programs, and some of you will be familiar with some of these already. The first one is Start with Hello. We have an elementary school version as well as a middle and high school version of this. And this is where we teach kids, how do you recognize the signs of someone who's chronically socially isolated? And then what actions can you take to reach out, to give them that tap on the back, to give them their acknowledgement that they're seen, that someone cares about them, that that's going to make a difference. And it's, as you all know, it's remarkable how just that smile can completely change the path that someone then takes afterwards. Knowing that someone notices them, that is saying hello to them, that perhaps knows their name. These are small things that have a big impact, and we just don't know down the line how many lives that is going to touch as a result. So we teach kids, they have a lot of fun with this, they feel empowered. We've had fantastic stories from schools in Miami or Danbury about how the kids are like, oh, I want to be the person that goes over and says hello now. Or I just saw someone eating alone in the cafeteria. I'm going to make sure I go over and sit with that person and learn something about them. I'm going to ask them what their favorite band is or what their favorite color is, and we're going to start a conversation. They feel empowered and they feel invigorated that they have actions they can do to make a difference in the lives of someone else. Signs of Suicide is a program that you know well here in Boston, run by the Screening for Mental Health Organization. We have members here today. There they are. Hey! Sorry. It is the only peer-reviewed program, evidence-based program proven to reduce suicidal ideation and completions of suicide. It's a fantastic program that we can teach you how to deliver within your schools. It affects the kids for sure, it shows those that are at risk and that need help, can help with parents as well, and gets kids the help that they need. That's what this is all about, getting kids to the help that they need. Say Something is an evidence-informed program that we delivered that we saw a gap out there. When we said, how are we teaching teens and adolescents to recognize at-risk behaviors in their peers? How are we doing it on social media? We couldn't find anything, so we decided, okay, we will build this program and we will teach kids to do that. How do you recognize the signs of someone who might be at risk of hurting themselves? What does it look like in a tweet or an Instagram post? Because I tell you, there are far, far, far too many examples of after the fact saying, oh, I saw that tweet on Facebook. Or, oh, I heard he was going to come into the school and hurt that person, but I didn't take him seriously. Or the story of Jadine down in Texas, and her mother seeing the tweet, or the Tumblr at that point that she put up about, I finally got the gun. 165 retweets, no intervention, and she killed herself. So these are horrifying stories, and unfortunately there are far, far, far too many of them. So teaching kids, how do you recognize it, how do you take it seriously, and how do you tell a trusted adult so that an action can be intervened? And this is something that's having tremendous success across the country. There's a school district that we work with in Southern California that has been working with us for a couple of years on the Say Something program, and now they reported just this past June, they had someone saw a threat put on Instagram, and within an hour, over 100 students had come forward to report it and to take action, which is complete change for that school. And so they were able to assess, is this a real problem? What are we going to do about it? How are we going to get that kid help? We know that telling a trusted adult is not the solution for every student, and also for parents. Sometimes, your kid will come home from school, and little Johnny will say, hey, I overheard this on the bus. What tools are we giving for parents to report these things as well? So we've also, by looking at best practice in other states and using their existing software, created a scalable national model for an anonymous reporting system. It's already live on Android or iPhone. You can download it and go into the demo school group if you choose to. It's 24/7, 365. It is a web app, it is a website, and there's a 24/7 multilingual crisis center down in Florida to triage everything. So every tip that's submitted, whether it's bullying, whether it's gang violence, whether it's a school threat, whether it's a suicide threat, whether it's substance abuse, it gets triaged at the telephone center. If it's life-threatening, it goes to local law enforcement immediately. So if there's a potential for significant damage or loss of life, local law enforcement has dealt with it, and it continues to be case managed until it's closed down. If it's non-life-threatening, it goes to the team identified within the school, and again, there's a reporting mechanism for them to come back and close out that case. If there's an example of a fight going to go down at the school, for example, or bullying for sure. The number one reported thing that comes through in Colorado, where they do this across the state, is suicide, and it's incredibly sad how many numbers of third-party reports of someone who's thinking about completing suicide are given to the system every school year. The fourth one is school attacks or shootings. So this is something, again, we provide it completely free for schools and for districts. And it goes through it, it's fully case managed. So if you think about it, it's very holistic. We train you how to recognize the signs. We tell you what to do when you see something that concerns you. And then there is both an anonymous or a named route for you to go forward and report that concern and ensure that then the experts are dealing with it and taking care of it and giving the person the help they need. The fourth program that we offer is safety assessment and intervention. This is an evidence-based program developed by Dr. Dewey Cornell out of the University of Virginia. And this is a program for teachers and administrators where, okay, you're getting all of these threats coming to you now because we've talked to your schools, we've talked to your kids. How do you identify this? How do you know when someone's at risk? What do you do with all that information? This is where we train a multidisciplinary team within a school how to assess all of those threats, determine what is transient and what's substantive, and then what actions to take. And really to dig deep, because it's not always about the threat, It's about what's going on in that kid's life that is causing them to have this behavior and what interventions can we make. There was a great example just this past year, a sad example, but a great example just this past year. We know that this program has stopped a few school shooting threats already, but earlier this year in 2017 in Ohio, a school took on the program. We trained them in mid-January. By the end of January, they had their first substantive threat that they had to test out the protocol with, and they contacted us afterwards. They said, you know what? Before your training, we would have suspended the student. That was our protocol when this sort of threat was made. We would have pushed them out, we would have kept them out of school for a little while, and then we would have let them back in. Because of your training, we now know that's the worst thing to do to a child, and instead we kept them in, we dug deep, we investigated, we talked to the family, we looked at his laptop, we looked at all the materials, and we uncovered plans and access and means. And we were able to, instead of excluding that child, we kept them in school, but we were able to put in safety nets. We were able to help them and intervene so that it didn't escalate and that kid can then go on, get the help that they need, but continue within the school environment. So it's a powerful program, but this is what prevention is. Now, as a country, as Sandy Hook, after Sandy Hook, we have focused so much on security measures, bricks and mortar, active shooter drills, lockdown drills. Those things are important. But if we're not dealing with the prevention side, if we're not stopping these acts from happening before they reach that point, then we're failing. So that's why we focus on what can we do before someone ever picks up a weapon with the intent to hurt themselves or someone else. In terms of delivery and impact, we know we are having an impact. We know that we have already intervened and stopped multiple school shooting and suicide and gun threats. We have stopped and reduced the number of cutting and bullying and other acts of violence. We've gotten hundreds of kids to the mental health services that they need. And so far, in the last 3 years, we've trained a little over 2.5 million kids and adults from about 5,000 schools across the country. And we're really excited to be able to bring this to Boston Public Schools and hope that we can have an impact here. We have some fantastic partnerships already in place. Miami-Dade County we've been working with for 2 years now. Los Angeles Unified a little over a year. Chicago Public Schools, San Francisco Unified is coming online. We're spreading elsewhere in California and Ohio for sure. We're pretty much saturated in Ohio, so we started off our programs there. Tim and Mark, you've heard their names a couple of times. They're my co-MDs. They're in New York City today talking about New York City Public Schools as well. So it is working, and we do a lot of research on this. As you know, we already have 2 evidence-based programs and 2 evidence-informed programs. And we've been doing a lot of research with University of Michigan's Youth Violence Prevention Center to quantify the impact of all of the programs to ensure that everything that we offer has impact and is working for you and for your students and communities. Because to be honest, we don't want to spin our wheels. We're not going to do something and promote something and put all of our blood, sweat, and tears into something unless it works. We know these things work, and we're hoping that you're able to feel the benefit within your community as well. So why partner with Sandy Hook Promise? Because we have heavily evidence-based and informed programs. We create upstanders. We're teaching kids how do you go from being a passive bystander to someone who's leaning in, who's making a difference in your community, who's reaching out and helping each other. We provide one consistent voice and version so that wherever a student goes or a teacher goes within a district, it's the same message. And again, that's creating true behavioral change. We do all of this through staff that we place actually in the school district. Big Joe back there is your guy here, and we've been recruiting presenters and trainers from within the community so that it's your own neighborhood members that are out there doing the training. We focus on keeping this as minimal for you as possible. We want to do the work so that you don't have to, so that you can focus on doing what you need to do, which is teach the kids and keep them learning and growing and thriving and being nurtured. Everything that we do is measurable, and again, everything that we do is at no cost because we only care about helping. So what you can do before I hand back over to Joe for any sort of Q&A is get more information. Start with Hello Week, which is one of our call to action weeks. We'll be kicking off February 5th through 9th. tons of materials available, educator guides, student guides, activity guides, ideas to help you make this your own within your school and community to your unique issues that you might be facing. But really, we're only a phone call or a talk or a text message away from helping you through every step of the way. And again, just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. Some of this is stuff that you've already heard before, but for those of you who this might be new or a deeper level, I hope that you're as enthused about this as we are. And you know, it's funny because I get the opportunity to find some joy by going out to schools now. And when I'm actually in front of the kids, either delivering a training, which I do occasionally, or just talking to them, that makes all the difference in the world to me, because I think about Dylan, who would now be in 6th grade, and I'm often in schools where I'm looking at kids who could be your Dylan's age. And Dylan should be there. He should be in that audience. I shouldn't be here, frankly. And I think about the change that's coming as a result of these programs. And very briefly, Dylan was autistic, and one of his repetitive movements was to flap his arms. Whenever he was happy or excited, he would flap them, and we used to joke that he was just going to fly off one of these days. But he was a flapper, that's what he did. And I asked him one time, even though he had delayed speech, I asked him, why do you flap? And he looked at me and he said, because I'm a beautiful butterfly. And now, and I thought about that a lot, and I remember at his funeral I spoke about the butterfly effect and how, you know, the theory of one butterfly flapping its wings on one side of the country can cause a hurricane on the other side of the world, and that Dylan and those that we lost at Sandy Hook were all butterflies, and that we were going to create change, something positive, something good would come from this tragedy to help others. And now this is, and I'm in no way exaggerating, now when I'm in front of a classroom or an assembly and I look at all those kids, all I see are butterflies. Because I know that they're the ones who are going to help lead this change, and you're going to help them do that as well. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
I just want to give a big thank you to all our speakers today. And I know we're up against it, and many of you are school-based staff, so in the sake of time, feel free to see myself or any other member of Sandy Hook Promise in the back at our table, and we'll feel free to answer any questions you might have. But thank you again for coming, and thank you for supporting us. So thank you very much.